Shalom. First, want to give all praise and glory to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shah, Bahashim Rakawadash. And, I've been sent to preach to you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans who are the true biblical Israelites. You are from the nation of Israel. You're not Mexican, Hispanic, Black, African American, Jamaican, Caribbean, or nothing of that sort, or African, Afro American, or Freeman, or FBA. You're none of that. You come from an actual tribe out of the Bible, and not just some made up byword put on us by our enemies. And we have a kingdom coming. We have an actual kingdom coming, and we have our own land. I know you've been told that, wherever you are now is your land. Well, that's not the case. We were scattered all over the earth, man, to the four corners of the earth. And actually not being in our land is really a curse, man. It's not good that we're in our captive's land. And as you can see, let's get into this article here. It says, video, white woman shackled with chains at Black History Museum. And as you see, you got a so-called Negro to the left, and then you got a so-called white woman, Edomite, to the right. Or she could be a Jake. She could be a Jake. Just because she looks like an Edomite doesn't mean she's an Edomite. So we're just gonna take it for face value. It says, disturbing footage features a white woman donning slave chains at an African American History Museum in Kentucky. In video going viral on social media from the Roots 101 African American Museum in Louisville, a white woman walks up to a black man who puts heavy shackles on her hands while she tells her, "Welcome to America." Asked for her thoughts, the white woman tearfully responds that she's always been interested in black culture, given her family history in the region, adding she reads several books and attends a majority black church. This might be a nigger woman. It says the bizarre white guilt stunt was slammed on social media. If you want to, you can go to End Wokeness. She might be a Jake, man. She just a Israelite stuck in that Edomite, body, man. But her spirit goes back to Israel, man. She's an Israelite by flesh. She could be Irish, Italian, who knows what her great-great-great-grandfather goes back to, man. But hey, if not, she's down with the get down, man. She want to be put in chains. She want to be put in shackles. Man. She's tired of Esau's, oppressive way of life. She want a big black, so-called black man who's from the Southern Kingdom, most likely. She want a big black, so-called black man to rule over her. And as from this video, hey, Jake is putting those chains on him, man. You know, but that's how it's gonna be after World War III, man. You know, we're gonna round up her counterparts, the other Edomites, just like this, and we're gonna line them up, and we're gonna put shackles on them, chains, fetters of iron, man. You know, so she's getting used to it already, man. You know, she's gonna get in her spot, if you will, right now. You know, she's getting her spot right now, man. She wanna know what them shackles feel like. You know, and then you got this moon right here, Jesse Lee Peterson. You know, that disgusting piece of crap. Then you got some other Edomites on here talking about, you know, Jesse Lee just might be an Edomite, man. You know, they say he a Jake, but I don't know, man. He come off as a slimy, grimy Edomite to me. You know, I could be wrong. You know, just a dark Edomite. You know, cause he's a super moon. You know, he's the epitome of a man, if you know what I'm talking about. Let's get some precepts, because what this so-called white woman is doing is going to happen to the rest of them. Every Edomite on the planet, after the nukes detonate and all the dust is settled, you know, on the other parts of the earth, because the ones here in America are going to be burned to a crisp. They're going to be radioactive dust or radioactive ash. One or the other, you know? And in Israel, it's going to be the same thing. They're going to be radioactive ash over there too. But for the rest of the country, for the rest of the planet, that's going to be inhabitable. You know, because America's going to be the only one uninhabitable. You know, but the rest, and once the fire dies down, you know, in Israel, man, we're going to be able to go back in there and reclaim our land. But for the rest of the people who are on the other continents, we're going to go round them up. You know, everybody that outside the nation of Israel is going to get chains on them. Just like this so-called white woman in this news article. You're going to be rounded up. You're all going to be gathered together. And you're going to be shackled, chained. And you're going to get to work. You know? There's no work grace period. There's no orientation for you, man. You're going to work on the fly. You're going to work and learn as you go. You know? And that's just what it is. You know, we worked in chains and shackles, man. You know? So you're going to feel them too, man. You're gonna have some nice jewelry, man. Shackles, fetters of iron, yokes of iron. You're gonna have that, man. We experienced that. You gotta experience it too, Esau, the main heathen. You know, Psalms 83. You know, where it gets into who our enemies are. All of y'all are gonna feel those chains, and you're gonna wear them, man. You're gonna get put to work. Now, it does mention that the Hamites, so-called Africans, they're going to be our taskmasters, you know, or our foremans on the plantations that these heathens going to be working. But they're still going to be under us, man. They're still going to be slaves, you know. to the nation of Israel, you're still gonna serve us, man. Yeah, and y'all gonna have chains too, man. Let's get some precepts. This Revelation 13 and 10. It says, if any man have an ear, let him hear. If you have an ear, hear this. Listen up. Verse 10, he that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. So didn't the so-called Negro, Latino, and Native American go into captivity? And the answer is yes. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Yeah, you kill the so-called Negro, Latino with the sword, with the literal sword, or with the gun. You must be killed with the sword. You're going to be killed with an actual sword, though. The elect, the 1/3 at this time is going to have all kind of spiritual power, man. So, hey, we could just, shoot some laser beams into you, out our hands or out our eyes, just imagine your whole spine coming out of your body, turning you inside out. We're going to have all kind of ways to get rid of you. But some of you, or a great majority of you, going to actually feel that sword, man. You're going to feel that blade. So here's the patience and the faith of the saints being the Israelites, but only the elect is waiting for this to actually happen, man. You 2/3 of the nation of Israel here in America, you don't want that to happen. You want to love master. You want to be the slave on the plantation. You want to go begging for things all the time. You love being on the bottom. But the 1/3 of the elect here in America, Babylon, on a whole type of different level, man. And the elect scattered throughout the world, they're on a whole different type of level. Because we're all going to get beamed up together. No matter where we are, we're going to go into one ship with Yahweh Shai. We're going to get beamed up into that one ship together. And then the 144,000 are going to come down and set things right for Yahweh Shai, man. We're going to, Lord willing, I'm of that number. We're going to get those marching orders. And we're going to go rounding up you so-called Negro, Latinos, and Native Americans who are in different parts of the country and telling you, hey, Yahweh Shai are the, true power, that Yahweh is the true power of the earth. He's the only power. You're going to worship him. You're going to follow his laws, statutes, commandments, and, ordinances and his laws. And the king of the earth is Yahweh Shai, and under Yahweh Shai is Dawadah, We're going to set the government up, tell you what the government is. We're going to tell you about the elders, and the 144,000, and telling you, hey, you got to now put all your idols away. You got to stop eating all that abominable food, and get rid of your wicked ways and agree to bow down to Yahweh B'Shem Yahweh Shai. And for the ones who don't want to do that, you're going to get put to death. It's just that simple, man. We're going to put y'all asses to death. Let's get another precept. Let's see. Let's go to the book of Psalms. we're gonna skip down. I'm gonna make it a little quick because I gotta really go to the plantation here in a minute. This is Psalms 149 in verse 5. Let the saints, the Israelites, be joyful in glory. Let them sing aloud upon their beds. Yeah, we're gonna sing loud upon our beds in the kingdom of heaven. You know, praising Yahweh by Shem Yahushua. You know, because we're finally gonna get a chance to rest. You know, we're finally gonna get to rest and be back in our own land, man. It says, let the high praises of the Most High be in their mouth and a two-edged sword in their hand. Yeah, because we're going to have that two-edged sword, a literal two-edged sword. And we're going to use that in MFA, man. You know? It says, let the high verse 7, to execute vengeance upon the heathen, starting with Esau, Edom, and the rest of them on down, and punishment upon the people. Yeah, we're going to punish you so-called Arabs, man. You know, you hate Jake. You know, you've been selling us pork poison in the hood, right along with Esau, Edom, the so-called white man. You know, and you Moabites, man, y'all the top 3 wicked heathens, man, on the list. You the top 3. You know, so y'all keep a hand. You know, the so-called white man, the so-called Arab, you know, and so-called Asian, Moab, Chinese, man. Y'all keep a nice hand and keep a nice foot in the so-called Negro, Latino, and Native American ass, man. So we're going to come down you like a waterfall, man. Like a tsunami. You know? We're going to be working on Esau the most, you know? Working day and night. You know, beating your ass and kicking y'all asses, man. Getting y'all in the shape. It says, to bind their kings with chains and their nobles with fetters of iron. Yeah, all you know, the kings of the dukes of Edom, the kings of Edom, you know, the sheiks of you know, what's the face of you so-called Arabs, you know, the kings of Ishmael, the kings of Moab, you know, the presidents and the prime ministers, you know, the royalty, the high monarchy. We're going to chain y'all asses up, and y'all gonna be slaves, man. All your wealth is gonna disappear instantly. All your power, prestige is gonna be forgotten, man. You know, you're gonna know you're a slave once you have to bow down to Yahweh Shem Yahushua, man. Face to the ground. You know? With your chains on, with your shackles on, man. With so-called Negro, Latinos, and Native Americans, man, standing over you, fucking 7 feet, 8 feet tall, whatever the case may be, looking down on you, glowing, you know, looking like, you know, like something out of a fairy tale book, man. You know, looking like something out of a damn movie, man. Glowing, radiant, full of strength, muscles popping everywhere, man. Looking like very youthful, you know. It's gonna be beautiful, man. Verse 9, to execute upon them the judgment written. This honor have all his saints, the Israelites, praise ye Yahweh. Yeah, because it is written that, you know, you gonna go into slavery. You know, you're gonna be on the bottom, and Jake's gonna rule, man. You know, Jacob is the one that ruled, you know. Jacob's gonna rule forever, man. Israel's gonna get the kingdom. You know, and we're gonna rule forever, man. So that so-called white woman in the article, if she's a Edomite, she's just getting getting her shackles together, man. She's trying to get her chains fitted. But if she says she's from Louisville, she's gonna die here from the thermonuclear missiles. But in the meanwhile, she's getting fitted for her shackles, man. And you heathens should take note. But hey, I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here. Before I get out of here, I'm gonna give all praise and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakwadash, Shalom.